have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the word, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind, let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Well, you all ready to dance now, guys? Well, you know what I learned this week? Puxatawny Pete was right. When I went to bed on Groundhog Day, it was raining. And when I got up, there was this white stuff on the ground. What's that called?
Snow.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, here we don't really care about 4 seasons. We're not real fond of summer, but otherwise it's pretty good. Now, my family has a tradition. On Groundhog Day, we don't eat Puxatawny Pete. We eat sausage. Groundhog. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I am Marianne Kehoe Ford, and I come from one of the 3 states that's a 4-letter word. Utah has not yet had a president, but it may. Ohio has had 5 presidents. And my home state of Iowa has had only one, Hubert Heaver. Excuse me. Yes. Well, anyway, he came in at a very difficult time in history because you know what happened? The stock market crashed and the stockbrokers were jumping out windows. And he only had 1 term in office, but he did a lot of good things. But his 4 years of presidency weren't so hot. Well, anyway, what I've been doing is I'm thinking about getting ready to talk today. I keep playing words from a musical that I dearly love. And it was written by a guy named Meredith Wilson, who grew up in Mason City, Iowa. And I used to train chaplains in Mason City, Iowa. Not very successfully, I might add. But anyway, it's called The Music Man. And there's one song in there that pretty well describes who I am. First of all, I'm a member of the silent generation. Hello? Yes. You know what the silent generation was? From about 1928 to 1945. Why'd they call them the silent generation? Well, because a lot of bad things. One of the smallest groups of people in the country, now between the ages of 75 and 91. Anyway, the silent generation got things done. And I thought you would like to know who some of the members of the silent generation are. Well, there was 3 guys who sang called the Beatles. There are many movie stars, and there are many sports figures. And there is an American martyr who wasn't very silent named Martin Luther King. So we weren't exactly silent, to put it mildly. But anyway, here we are, and it's so good to be with you. But anyway, the song that has been running through my head is called "You Gotta Give Iowa a Try." And, no, I moved. So anyway, it's a song from the Music Man. It said, "You gotta, we can be cold as the coldest thermometer in December if you ask about our weather in July. And we're so, by gosh, stubborn, we can stand touching noses for a week at a time and never see eye to eye. But what the heck? Glad to have you with us. Join us at the picnic. You can eat all the food you bring yourself. You got to give Iowa a try, provided you're a contrary." So anyway, here I are. And what I want us to do today is share some more smiles and think about that song, "Let There Be a Dance." That's what we need to do. We need to dance with each other again, don't we? Well, I'm not the same person I was. I know much less than I knew when I was 18, or even 20, or even 40, or even last year. My professional career has been rather bizarre. When I belonged to some association or other, they said the average person will have 7 different jobs. What? Well, I had a number of jobs, but I figured out the majority of my work has been in crisis management. Crisis management for the largest industrial accident in history in Bhopal, India. Then a chemical we made was inaccurately, wrongly applied to watermelons over the 4th of July, and a lot of people got sick. So after that crisis management, I went to divinity school at Meadville Lombard. And there I learned about a different kind of crisis: life and death, accidents, more things than you probably want to know about. But crisis management apparently is my thing. And I think we're in a little of a crisis here right now, and I'm not going to talk about that. Well, what am I going to talk about? I quickly discovered as a chaplain that nobody cared how many prayers I knew or mantras. What people wanted was me to listen to them. And that was my success as a chaplain, listening to them. I probably learned more from my patients than I ever learned in divinity school. But it was learning I'll never forget. Some absolutely, and some terrible, some wonderful experiences. Now, there's been a change in the Unitarian Universalist rules that I think is quite important. It used to be that if you wanted to be a chaplain, and you have to take a unit of service outside the church when you're going to divinity school, you had to spend a year in a congregation. I can't imagine. I did not want to be a minister in a congregation. You know why? Well, I'll tell you why. Ministering to a Unitarian congregation is like herding cats. We all have opinions, very strong ones, and we're not afraid to say them. As a cat owner, I can tell you how successful I am at herding cats, and that is not at all. Well, today we're going to talk about change, but first we're going to do some other things, and Katie is going to light our candle. And hello out there, you in La La Land. Yeah. Now we will share our covenant, and that's our shared belief. You can stand or sit, whichever feels better. And then we will have our shared beliefs, which they call the Doxology. I don't like that word, it's too big. Okay.
Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, to every land by every tongue. De todos follow the soul, será esperanza de amor, vera vireza en canción, de cara tierra cada voz. My turn.
Okay, go ahead now.
Good morning. And welcome to this worship service for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. My name is Katie Fitzgerald, and I'm the service associate. Marianne Ford introduced herself. She is our service leader this morning. We are delighted that you could be with us today. Unitarian Universalism has no creed nor dogma. We are a covenant-based church, meaning that we agree to live in relationship with one another according to the Unitarian Universalist principles and our congregation's covenant of right relations. We embrace diversity in all its forms. Everyone is welcome. You can learn more about our church and check the events calendar at our website, UUCLC.org. In order to help contain the spread of the coronavirus and its variants, we are offering hybrid services here in the sanctuary as well as online using Zoom software. If you have any questions about how to use Zoom, you may contact Michaela, the church's technical support staff member. If you are visiting us today, welcome, and we'd like to meet you. Here in the sanctuary, please stand and wait a moment while we get the microphone to you. Please introduce yourself and let us know where you are from. Do we have any visitors today? Jason?
Hi, I'm Linda Rochella.
I'm Ed Long.
Hi.
We're from Bloomington, Indiana. We're visiting for a month and looking perhaps to become snowbirds or relocate at some point in the future.
That says it all.
Oh,
Okay.
welcome, Linda and
Looking
Ed.
forward to meet you all, and especially if you're snowbirds or have relocated recently, would love to hear your stories so that we could gain from your experience. Thank you.
We got stories. Have we got stories?
Everybody's got stories.
Welcome. Any other visitors here in the sanctuary this morning? Okay, how about on Zoom? Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, I'm a visitor. Hi,
Hi, welcome.
thank you. I know several people who are involved and I'm just curious and interested.
Well, we're glad you could join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I lost my script. Anyway, if you fill out a visitor's card and drop it in the basket during the offering, that will give us an opportunity to contact you, share more information about upcoming services and activities in our church. Directly following this service, there will be an opportunity to fellowship with one another. For those on Zoom, just stay linked into the site after the service ends. For those in the sanctuary, we hope that you will continue to practice safe distancing as you gather under the portico from here to the RE building or in the library. Today, I have these announcements. Due to the increased risk of contracting the virus by eating indoors without masks, the Hospitality Committee is taking a hiatus until later this month. Next Saturday, February 12th, please mark your calendars. We will be having an African-American read-in in memory of our friend Kehoe. The event will be held via Zoom, so tune in from 2 to 3:30. The gallery has a new show opening today. It's called Serendipity, and it features the multimedia works of two artists, Linda Sanchez and Mary Lou Lacasse. Elwin, the man with the camera.
Guess what?
Our ever popular chocolatier is selling truffles in the library after the service. Come find some sweets for your honey. Just leave here through the exit and there's the back door to the library. Very convenient. This Wednesday, we are once again offering a caring conversation. However, we're offering it a new time, 9 a.m. Come when you can and stay as long as you can for the 3 C's: caring, conversation, and caffeine. You supply the caffeine. The Zoom link will appear in Zoom, and please, all of you, mark your calendars. The auction event will be in the late afternoon on the first Sunday of May. For those of you who may not be aware, that's the day of the Kentucky Derby. Derby Day. Okay, that's all I have for announcements today. And we have time for all ages.
Little Tree by Loren Long. Once there was a little tree filled with little leaves, who was surrounded by other little trees who had little leaves of their own. In the heat of long summer days, Little Tree's leaves kept him cool. The squirrels would climb up on his branches to play. The mourning dove landed in him and sang her fluty song. The little tree was sure to grow up, big and strong. Autumn arrived and cool winds filled the air. The wind tickled the little tree as it passed through his branches and ruffled his leaves. The air grew cold and the leaves on all of the trees changed color, becoming yellow, red, and orange. Then one by one, the trees began to drop their leaves. But not Little Tree. He just hugged his leaves tight. "Hello, Little Tree," said Squirrel. "You're supposed to drop your leaves now." But Little Tree was unsure. What would he do without his leaves? Winter came. "What are you doing with leaves still on you?" asked the doe. Little Tree just hugged his leaves tight. Springtime arrived and the little forest burst into life again. The other trees grew bright new leaves and the squirrels played in their branches. Little Tree could hear the morning dove singing her fluty song. The season continued to come and go. Little Tree, quackled a duckling, your leaves are brown. Are you feeling sick? A fox said, Little Tree, it's autumn. It's time for you to drop your leaves. You can do it. Ready? 1, 2. But Little Tree just hugged his leaves tight. All around, the forest grew and grew. One summer, Little Tree could no longer feel the sunlight. The squirrels played high above on the broad, tall trees, and the morning dove sang so far away that he could hardly hear her fluty song. Autumn came again. Leaves began to blanket the ground. Little Tree looked up at the other trees, at their branches reaching high into the sky, and he remembered when the trees had all been his size. And then he let go. As his last leaf floated to the ground for the first time, Little Tree felt the harsh cold of winter. But in time, something happened. Once there was a little tree.
Well, I think there's an important lesson there. Even short people grow up.
Except for one.
Go on, Katie.
Maybe two.
Well, you know, there's a terrible song out there about short people. You know, I mean, they got no bodies and they have little cars that go beep, 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 and they don't have any fingernails and they got little feet. Well, there's nothing wrong with being short, I'll have you know. We got big mouths. Well, anyway, we have, let me see here, joys and sorrows, and we have both. Paul and Marion O'Connell are relocating back up north to be closer to family. Paul is leading a discussion of white oppression during this afternoon's Cornerstone. We thank the O'Connells for all they do. They have brought to our congregation all kinds of good things. We wish them well in the next stage of this journey. It is with great sorrow we share the passing of Jeannie Gilbert's husband yesterday. We don't have his name. His sister is with her, and we give our deepest sympathy. Jeannie Gilbert, her husband. In his memory. Well, we have a very special time in this church. You know, silence often speaks louder than words. So let us have our short time of silence.
even dreams fall apart in the wind and the rain. Wild waves of storm rush in, and nothing is ever the same. When your whole life's been washed away, and it's hard to see the light, you just call on a friend with a hand to lend, and together you'll be alright. 'Cause we're all in this together, in the good times and the pain. We can't wait till the storm is over. We gotta learn to work in the rain. When your faith is drowned in a river of lies, when hope is washed away and courage is hard to find, you gotta keep your head above water, hold on and believe. You reach out to a friend with a hand to lend, and those waters will soon recede. 'Cause we're all in this together, in the good times and the pain. We can't wait till the storm is over. We gotta learn to work in the rain. In every life the rain will fall. That's just the way it must be. Yes, the waters will rise, but if hope stays alive, even the storms can set us free. So it's up to you and me, 'cause we're all in this together, in the good times and the pain. We can't wait till the storm is over. We gotta learn to work in the rain, 'cause we're all in this together, in the good times and the pain. We can't wait till the storm is over. We gotta learn to work in the rain. We gotta learn to work in the rain. We gotta learn to work in the rain. Work in the rain.
Well, you know, I forgot my opening words of welcome. And they're not from the good book as in GB, the Judeo-Christian Bible. It's from a good book I read during our time of cocooning. And we've all been cocooning, haven't we? When I did the promo for this church, I said, you know, think about that butterfly, a humble caterpillar, some cocooning, and what comes out of it? A beautiful thing. And that is what we need to think about, some beauty. And it will come. It will come. Well, anyway, this good book I read is not the good book, the Bible. It is a very good read I read when I was cocooning, which I'm still cocooning, and so are you. It's by a man named Alexander McCall Smith. And you know what he writes? Thrillers.
No.
Well, anyway, I put this in my holiday letter because it seemed to be for us right now. Here and there in its various theirs. Happiness is a state which few can define. I shall not even try. But even those who never attempt the division know from experience that happiness flows most readily from friendship, from the company of those who would rather not be without. A double negative is a way of saying that what you really believe. And I believe that, I really do. Friendship is a guise of love. And love is friendship dressed up for a night out. That we are together here at this moment is the most delicious treat. I shall ask for no more. Well, read Alexander McCall Smith. You want to? I learned as much from him as I ever did in church. Well, I guess it's time for the talk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Well, I'm going to talk about change today. Somebody said, the more things change, the more they remain the same. And a man named Benjamin Franklin took some words of somebody who was older than he had, and he said, only two things are for sure in life, death and taxes. Well, anyway, we're going through change now too. And I'm going to talk about change in a generic sense, because if there's somebody in this church who has not undergone change, I'd like to know who you are. Our denomination is comprised quite often of people who change religions. And I know I did. I was raised, I was baptized, made my first communion and my first confession, I might add, and my confirmation, and I was married in the Roman Catholic Church. Well, I disagreed with that church's policy on birth control. I had 3 kids born between 1963 and 1967. I obviously knew nothing about rhythm. So I came here, I didn't know a thing about the 7 principles. All I knew is I disagreed with something that my childhood faith had taught me. And I found here a home. And so have all of you. Well, what about change? Think about changes in your own life, and I'd love to hear your own story when we have some time to talk. Change is everywhere, it's ubiquitous. But anyway, George Bernard Shaw, who was a famous playwright, said something I really like. Progress is impossible without change. And those who cannot change their mind cannot change anything. How's that for tough? There is one change, as I mentioned, probably common to us. We came from other faiths, and who cares? We seek perfection, and perfection is what? Impossible. And right now, we're seeking a new normal. Well, tell me about that. I think it's going to be a while coming. I use the example of the butterfly who cocooned just like we're doing and turned into one of the most beautiful things on earth. Have you ever seen a butterfly migration? Oh, that is one of my experiences of joy. I've seen 2. I saw one in my native Iowa. You know, butterflies are picky eaters, whether you knew that or not. They only eat milkweed. Well, and milkweed is unfortunately considered a weed. So now people are growing milkweed because they want to get the butterfly back. And the butterfly has one of the longest migrations in the world. Twice, up from California and Mexico, up to Canada, and then generations of monarchs coming back. I have tears in my eyes when I think of that butterfly migration. I've never seen anything more beautiful. Hundreds and hundreds of them, all hovering in the field or a tree in my backyard. Absolutely beautiful. Well, anyway, since we can't be perfect, I guess we got to just be us. perfection only happens in the abstract. We all want to be perfect, don't we? And I'll tell you something. I don't do sermons and I don't preach. You know why? I raised 3 teenagers. The minute you start preaching at a teenager, they say, "Oh, mother, shut up." So I didn't give sermons. And I just say, "Oh, back when I was young." Now that happens to be about the most boring thing anybody ever said. But anyway, I just want to talk to you. I want to hear your stories when we're done here too, because life is just about stories. And all of our stories are different. And that's what makes us special, our difference. Well, I already told you I don't know as much as I thought I knew when I was 20 or 30 or 40. But life is a process of learning more and more you don't know, not an unlearning what you thought you did know. Well, anyway, one thing that I have learned since I watched a lot of television during my cocoon is that I don't like some of the ads that are on. Maybe you feel the same way. There's one I don't really like. And that's this woman saying very smugly, "Age is just a number and mine's unlit." Well, who cares how old you are? I'm 80 years old. I was 80 in June. So what? I don't think it's not like having a bad scar, getting old. Well, that ad annoys me. And you know who I really feel sorry for? No, doctors. They're having all these ads for drugs on television, for things I never heard of. So, you know, but there's nothing wrong with being old. You know what the average age is in the United States? 38. So most of you are old. By the way, the hymns were chosen today because of the words. And I think these words are very important in our congregation right now. It's a gift to be simple, to become where we want to be. And I guess we all want to be here, don't we? Well, anyway, you know where I came from religiously and not there anymore. But you know what I am that I'm very proud of? I am the 4th generation to graduate from a Jesuit university. Now, I don't know whether you know about the Jesuits. You talk about people who have had troubles. First, they're in, and then they're out, and the Pope doesn't like them, and then they say the Jesuits. And then guess who's a Jesuit? Pope Francis.
Oh.
He is our first Jesuit Pope. Well, the Jesuits, hey, somebody's clapping back there. Anyway, I think that he has a really hard job. He has a harder job than we have in this church, trying to get all those Catholics to agree.
Yeah.
They're about as difficult as we are, aren't they? But let's talk about change in general. Well, I'm a parent, and I can tell you that housebreaking a kid or a dog is very hard work.
Yes.
Anybody who's been there knows about that. And then there is a change when that kid becomes an adolescent. And everything you say is for the birds.
Right.
Or when they go to school and then all these other voices come and they learn all kinds of points of view that aren't necessarily yours. That's a big change in our lives. Well, anyway, and then there's always a change when we take up a new partner, male or female. perhaps that person snores or talks with their mouth full. Well, what about a change of jobs? Oh, I'm going to make more money. I'm going to make more money. You're going to have a new boss. You're going to have to work in a new place. And you have to meet all kinds of new people. The money is not everything. You discover you have to do a lot of changing yourself. Well, then we have something called the change of life. We won't talk about that.
Thank you.
Well, think of the changes our ancestors had to make. They had to put old Dobbin out to the dog food factory and do the horseless carriage. Most of us are immigrants. My grandparents were immigrants. One came from Luxembourg, 2 came from Ireland. And let me tell you a story that I think is pertinent. Old memories and old grievances die hard. I was supposed to be Mary Catherine. Well, my mother had peritonitis or some horrible thing when I was born. And she was a devout Roman Catholic and she prayed to St. Anne de Beaupré. Well, anyway, that's how I got my middle name. Well, we were going to Canada to the shrine of St. Anne, which is way up in northern Quebec. And we stopped in a town in Canada where my maternal grandmother was born, called Peterborough, Ontario. Now, my dad was a member of a social club called Lions. And he said, come on, he was the only person that could call me Mary, by the way. Come on, Mary, I'll take you to the Lions Club meeting. Well, we got to the Lions Club meeting up there in Canada. And what did they do first? They sang, God Save the Queen, and my father wouldn't stand up. That is how long old grievances last. His parents, my grandfather, his father was born in Nova Scotia and his mother in Ontario. And they, when my kids were little, my eldest came home and said, Mother, I have friends whose ancestors came over on the Mayflower. Where did my ancestors come over from? I said, they came over on a coffin ship. If you've been to Ireland, you know what those ships were like and how anybody survived. My grandfather was the youngest of 5. 2 of the children were even named. I have no idea what happened. So, you know, our ways over were never easy, and our ways through life are never easy either. One of the best ways to deal with change is to go to another country. And you know what? My way is not the highway. That is one lesson we learn when we go to a different culture. Different languages, different times of eating. That's a lot to put up with, isn't it? Yet we grow from that experience. And we learn the more we know about each other, the better off we are. Laws are constantly changing, as you well know if you watch the news nowadays. Well, back in the 20s, what was the big problem? Demon rum.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what did we get? Prohibition. And what did we get? Speakeasies. White lightning. Al Capone. Now we have prescription drugs. And that is killing people. That they are killing people right and left. Now let's talk about aging. I did say I wouldn't talk about the change of life, and I won't get into that. But anyway, I never knew I'd have to have reading glasses. I've got them in every room. I never knew how long my shelf of prescriptions would be either. I thought I was just going to be fine forever. Well, forget it. None of us are fine forever. I cannot read the newspaper without reading glasses. It's amazing I can read this, and that's because it's far away. And I think those of us who have lived long enough know that, don't we? We know that. Now, what about the loss of a loved one? There is the most terrible change of all. And what about when, as I discovered, when you as a child become the oldest generation? That's a different change too. Anything that annoys me, it's being in a room and somebody's cell phone goes off. Usually it's something about as important as, well, I'm at the grocery store now. I mean, hello. You know, that's news. But anyway, you don't have your cell phones on, and I am glad. Perhaps the best teacher in my lifetime has been the School of Hard Knocks. To watch the speed limit is when I got 2 tickets. That is it. The School of Hard Knocks probably is the greatest teacher of all. Now, when I signed my first, I've been a Unitarian Universalist for over 50 years. And when I signed the first book, I signed it in Geneva, Illinois. Now, Geneva, Illinois has a very old Unitarian society. They don't even call themselves a church. But anyway, it was started by a fellow who came from Detroit, and he was in that building, which is still standing from about 1842 to 1857. And that building is still standing, and the windows, the lights, and the pews came from an event called the Great Chicago Fire. Well, guess what? I joined that congregation, signed the book in 1968. Anybody remember 1968?
I do.
It was a tough time. Talk about disagreements. We were having a conflict. You know, we haven't had a war since 1945. Well, we were having a conflict in a country in Asia. And my generation fought that conflict. And the congregation in Geneva, Illinois, was divided about that. So it took some clever footing to be able to get people to talk to each other, because feelings ran so high during that time with that terrible war in Vietnam. But we survived. And we survived by doing what? Listening to one another. I can remember some of the times when we listened, and sometimes it was hard to listen. It's hard to listen to other people. We'd rather talk, right? Well, when I signed the book, I made some wonderful friends. And as you all know, families aren't just biologic. Families come from the heart. And when I signed that book in Geneva and began going to church there, I met my second family. They had come from a horrible experience known as the Holocaust. Vera was from Hungary and George was from Yugoslavia. Well, when I came here, guess what? I met my third family, and I think you know who they are. I would hope. Well, then how I signed the book here, I need to tell you about that. Well, the day I came to sign the book, they couldn't find the book. But they eventually found it. I came here from, I did something that was kind of dumb. I kept my childhood home in Iowa. And you know, Thomas Wolfe, the playwright, was right, you can't go home again. Well, I had retired from Children's Memorial Hospital in Chicago, and I was living in Iowa, and I got a call from my daughter. I have 2 sons and had 1 daughter. She said, Mother, she had just finished her PhD, and she had been hired at UTEP. And she said, Mother, I have breast cancer. And I said, well, are you going to have surgery? She says, no, they're doing more tests. Well, I went out to California to see her little brother. And Alex said, Mother, have you talked to Paula? I said, no. He said, she has inflammatory breast cancer. That is the most terrible kind of breast cancer. It's always diagnosed stage 3 or 4. Paula had chemotherapy. She had radiation. She had a double mastectomy. And she lived only 2 years from diagnosis until she died. That's how I ended up down in this part of the country. I came to help. Well, how did I end up in this church? Well, anybody who's been through cancer treatment knows it's no fun. It's pretty awful. And I just needed to get away. And I thought, well, I'll go to the Unitarian church. I didn't like the one in El Paso. So I'll go to the one in Las Cruces. But you know what I really came here to do? Play cards. Well, we all come for different reasons and we all get along. I closed with the words of a fellow who didn't change and had to drink hemlock because he wouldn't change his ideas. He's an old Greek named Socrates. Socrates said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energies on not fighting the old, but building the new. So be it.
My turn.
Oh, we got more music?
Not yet.
Okay, you go ahead.
All right, thanks. It's time for us to share our gifts. We give to remind ourselves how many
Oh, yeah, we gotta get
gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. Despite the fact that we practice social distancing in order to slow the effects of the virus, we remain connected in spirit as a beloved community. Many of the expenses of the church continue, and some have risen during the pandemic period. Your generous support through the offering and pledges helped us to maintain essential programs from this church. Please refer to the electronic order of service or the member section of the church website to see how you can continue making pledges online if that is your preference. The church is also continuing its support of organizations identified by the Social Justice Committee as recipients of our Change for Change program. We collect actual change, or checks that have Change for Change in the memo line, or online donations that are marked for this purpose. So please be generous as the basket is being passed, or as you choose online. The recipient this quarter is identified as the La Casa. It's an organization here in Las Cruces dedicated to breaking the cycle of domestic abuse through education and by supporting victims with counseling, legal assistance, and shelter. The greeters will now pass among you with the baskets. Thank you. Having received the offering for the gifts which we have received and the gifts which we ourselves are, may we be truly grateful. May we be committed to using these gifts to make a difference in the world, to increase love and justice, to decrease hatred and oppression, to expand beloved community, to share, and to keep sharing as long as ever we can. Amen, and may it be so. If you are joining this worship service with us online or here in the sanctuary, or looking for a spiritual home, and are sympathetic with Unitarian Universalist values and principles, the UUCLC may be the place for you. We believe that when you become a member, you are entering into a warm and deep relationship with the church and all of our members and friends. You are becoming part of something much bigger than any of us. You're becoming a part of a movement to change our community and the world. The way you join this church is to either sign the real, as Marianne mentioned, or virtual membership book through the link in the electronic order of service. Or you can call the church office, leave a message, and someone will contact you. Now, if you'd like to stand and hum along with me as we sing the closing hymn, number 290, Bring, O Past, Your Honor. And I think the words are on the screen.
This hymn is very important to me. It was written by a minister in the Unitarian Church, Unitarian Society of Geneva, named Charles Little, who probably set the world's record for a long ministry from 1924 to 1946. The words, I think, tell the story.
Bring your past, your honor, bring, O time, your harvest, golden sheaves of hallowed lives and minds by truth made free. Come, you faithful spirits, builders of this temple, to holiness, to love and liberty. Ring in glad thanksgiving, bell of grief and gladness, for to town and prairie let our festal greeting go. Faint voices long departed, in your tones re-echo, praise to the highest, peace to all below. Shrine of frontier courage, Sinai of its vision, home and hearth of common quest for life's immortal good. Stand in years oncoming, sentinel of conscience, as though the past your stalwart walls have stood. Church of pure reformers, pioneers undaunted, company of comrades sworn to keep the spirit free. Long o'er life's swift river, preach the eternal gospel, faith, hope, and love for all humanity.
I have another word. Bloom where you're planted. Here.
Please join me as we extinguish the flame. We should have the words on the screen. There we go. We extinguish this flame, but not the light.